So what I saw here was a cult mentality. And this is not a criticism of everybody. There are a lot of very good people in this movement. But there is a lot of bullshit, and nobody has said so. I have not heard one person within that movement stand up and say, hey guys, maybe we are not being sprayed from above by airplane. This is the chemtrail thing. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. I haven't explained the core beliefs. But for somebody to stand up and say, hey, maybe you're wrong about something, these widely accepted worldview beliefs, for somebody to stand up and say, maybe these are wrong, was just completely unacceptable. So I lost a bunch of friends. That's fine. I want to tell you about the widely held beliefs of this movement, and I'm not here to ridicule them. What I really want is for you, the listener, to be aware of what is widely believed by a lot of people. Now, my dispute came out of this ClimateGate thing. Now, if you listen to last week's show, my talk about confirmation bias was clearly directed at the people who self-identify as truthers, because as somebody who claims to be seeking the truth in all things, if you're wrong about something, you have to be able to admit it. I was challenging the confirmation bias not only of myself. What I was doing was challenging the confirmation biases of everyone, particularly those who claim to be dedicated to seeking the truth in all things. So if you can't challenge your own confirmation biases, you're not seeking the truth. Well, I brought up the issue of ClimateGate, the so-called ClimateGate. This is the hacking of emails from a climate research unit at the University of East Anglia. At the time I did last week's show, I wasn't ready to make my mind up about it because I hadn't thoroughly considered it. This is something that I do when I'm presented with information, is I think about it for a while before I make up my mind. Now, of course, instantly, without thinking about it, many people, particularly those in the truth movement, who I believe have been manipulated and played by the fossil fuel industries, those in the truth movement instantly said that these emails prove that man-made global warming is not occurring, period. Now, I looked into the emails. I did actually read a considerable portion of them, and I came to the conclusion that though these emails are damaging to a few of the scientists who appear to be quite self-serving and really looking to get their projects funded, there wasn't really that much damage. Even among what were portrayed as the most damaging emails, it made these particular scientists look a little bad, but it certainly didn't undermine the entire body of work, which is done by thousands and thousands of scientists. The body of evidence in favor of man-made global warming is just so large. To say that 1 out of 3,000 scientists falsified data is not enough to undermine the work of the other 2,999. It's another feature of confirmation bias, to only remember the hits and forget all the misses. Well, all this other work has not been debunked, not sufficiently enough for me to change my mind. So they caught a sleazy scientist, or I guess there were, I think, 3 scientists in particular at this climate research unit who were not behaving ethically. In light of that, I don't believe at all that this undermines the entire theory of man-made global warming. We continue to see the effects of the warming every day here in the north. This is a reminder for you. I live just below the Arctic Circle. We see very clearly there is definitely evidence of global warming taking place. We've seen evidence, as Yukoners here, and all the Yukoners listening to this will know, it's not cold like it used to be. We get way more snow and way more precipitation than we used to. And my biologist friends have told me about how hibernation patterns of the squirrels, for example, has been disrupted. The caribou can no longer get at their lichen because the ground melts and refreezes during the winter. I could go on and on and on. So I thought about this, and then I looked at who the allies, the supposed allies of the ClimateGate argument were. And when you see yourself standing up with James Inhofe of Oklahoma, if he is your champion, you got a problem. Because it's the same fossil fuel people who've been funding the denier argument all along who are championing this. So I came to the conclusion that though the emails were damaging for a couple of scientists, the hype is entirely a fossil fuel project, disinformation campaign, and they've used the truth movement. They have manipulated the truth movement, who already believe in giant government scams, who are already predisposed to believing in giant government scams, who already believed that the global warming thing was not occurring but was only a ploy to take away the sovereignty of all nations and install a tyrannical world government. That's what the belief of the Truth Movement was before. These leaked emails reinforced their worldview. It was an example of confirmation bias at work. The fossil fuel industry hyped it, and the Truth Movement bought it, hook, line, and sinker, and pushed fossil fuel industry talking points. You're working for the dark side. Just like Alex Jones denies peak oil, which hurts fossil fuel industry, Alex Jones also denies climate change, which hurts fossil fuel industry. Put some dots together. So for the heresy of saying that this ClimateGate thing is not significant and that it doesn't disprove the fact of man-made global warming, I found myself expelled from the movement. So it was almost like a cult dynamic where you stand up to the cult and you break the ranks of what is acceptable discourse. Well, if they want to claim they're the Truth Movement, they have to hold themselves to just the same standard as everybody else. And when I see obvious bullshit, I am going to call it. I just found it incredibly hypocritical of this so-called Truth Movement. There's a Jack Nicholson quote from A Few Good Men. You know what I'm saying? I've come to the conclusion that the so-called Truth Movement is just as easy to manipulate, if not easier to manipulate, by preying upon their biases as the rest of the population. Now I'm going to talk about some of the grand ideas that are out there pushed by this Truth Movement, which I've had a good glimpse into over the last several months. Again, I had many friends on Facebook, and every day I got to read the articles that they posted, and I did read them. So what I will do here is summarize the core beliefs of the Truth Movement, or what has become the Truth Movement. I'll tell you about some of the big ideas, and you can decide for yourself what you think about these ideas. So this is not me endorsing or denying. There's an overall worldview, and you have to subscribe to a certain set of beliefs, it seems. And to not do so means you're working for the New World Order. Yes, the New World Order. You heard of this before? Now, this is the idea that there is a secret government in waiting trying to consolidate power across the whole planet. So we're moving towards a world government, a tyrannical world government that will enslave populations with technology that we have now. This is the belief that a secret elite global government has plans to exterminate 80% of the population and imprison the rest on a technologically advanced prison planet, whereby we'll have microchips implanted in our arms, and that will be our currency. It'll be a cashless society, so we'll buy and sell and trade using the microchips which they've implanted. These microchips can be turned off at any time. So there's the first concept, moving towards a grand world government that will kill off most of us and control the rest of us. Now, how are they going to get there, was the question. As you should be well aware, there have been increasing police state laws, especially during the Bush administration. Things like the Patriot Act were passed. Individual rights were diminished, and greater technology, surveillance technology, was developed. The belief is that the mechanism used to achieve this global governance would be the climate change treaties, in that people would be convinced that a global warming was taking place when it isn't. This is the belief that there is no global warming taking place, or if it is taking place, it's the sun. Anyway, the belief is that the purpose of the Kyoto Treaty and any other climate treaties are so that a global carbon tax would be established to fund everything, and that by signing on to these treaties, nations would give up their sovereignty to this world body, which would have control over all aspects of their lives. It was extrapolated that the carbon tax would essentially be a tax on exhaling, because we exhale carbon dioxide. And the carbon tax would punish all industrial activity, all productive activity. So the idea is that a global government would be created through the signing of these treaties under the threat of what is a scam of global warming. This is the belief that global warming is not real, but it's the problem presented that must be solved, and the solution is a global government with a global carbon tax administered by a global World Bank, which would have control over all of you.